The information shared on CNS Unfiltered is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any health or lifestyle changes. The views shared are those of guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Innate Clinical Nutrition or its affiliates. This episode includes affiliate links, which help support the show. Hello and welcome. I am Jenna Salisbury, and this is CNS Unfiltered, a show where clinical nutrition specialists uncover what traditional medicine overlooks. Roughly 1 in 6 women in the United States experience fertility issues, according to the CDC. Many of these women spend months or even years trying to conceive, diligently tracking their ovulation cycles to time everything exactly right. Some who struggle with fertility ultimately experience the worst of the worst, one or even multiple miscarriages before finally succeeding, if they succeed at all. The reality of wanting a family and being unable to make it happen is absolutely devastating. And alternative methods like IVF are a lifeline for these couples. While IVF is safe and can be extremely stressful in achieving pregnancy, it does come with caveats of its own. IVF can often be very expensive, with many insurance plans not covering its cost. If you need multiple rounds of IVF, as many couples who are deemed infertile do, the cost goes up even higher and quickly. In addition, the hormonal demands of IVF treatment are hard on women's bodies, requiring an abundance of hormones to stimulate their ovaries enough. For many people, these truths are worth their dream of welcoming a child into their lives. But let's be real, if you don't always have to do things the hard way, you wouldn't. We've discussed nutrition and lifestyle choices and their impact on fertility on this podcast before. Your nutrition, your stress management, your sleep, your movement, and your supplementation are all immensely important when it comes to preparing for pregnancy and supporting your body during and after pregnancy. Sometimes infertility is caused by an imbalance in the body, which means that finding balance again and possibly tip the scale the other way. For today's case study, this is exactly what happened. Today, I'm talking to Yulia Glotzer, CNS and founder of Vibrant People Nutrition. Yulia's mission is to help women over 35 balance their hormones, navigate perimenopause in stride, and resolve long-lasting fertility issues, all through personalized nutrition. Yulia brings a wealth of experience and expertise to the table, both in terms of the health conditions she treats every day and also her insights to building a sustainable clinical nutrition practice. We talk in depth today about how emerging CNS practitioners can get off the ground, network, and build a community that truly supports their practice. And of course, Yulia presents a case study from her own work of a client who went from a year and a half without a single period and considering IVF treatment to conceiving naturally immediately after the return of her cycle. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody. Welcome to CNS Unfiltered. I'm so happy to have you all here with me. Today, we are joined by Yulia Glotzer. So I've had the pleasure of working with Yulia in a functional medicine practice that we both worked out of. And so we got to learn each other, learn through biweekly roundtables and just talking about clients and sharing ideas and how we practice. And Yulia has a wonderful passion and special love for, fertility and women's health, especially 35, right? When things are starting to click over and we're like, wait a second, wait a second, what's happening? Help. But it's not quite time for the doctors to step in, right? And so Yulia is the owner of Vibrant People Nutrition in Jersey City, New Jersey, but it is a telehealth. Um, and this is where she helps everybody, not just women over 35. And so today, Yulia is coming on so she can share her passion, her journey, and we can learn a little bit from this beautiful brain. Welcome, Yulia.
Hi, Jenna. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I thought it was such a great idea to start a podcast. I'm like in awe of your energy that you have to like put into this podcast. And I've been listening and I've been enjoying it a lot. So
Oh,
when you offered me to join you on a podcast, I was so excited.
thank you.
Um, Thank you for introduction. Yes, I'm also a CNS, of course. And I also hold a master's degree in human nutrition from Bridgeport University. Um, and my journey to get there was not like linear, like as many of us CNSs, it's not our first profession, not first career. It wasn't mine for sure. And my journey in health and wellness started when I moved to the US. um, I met my husband when I lived in Brazil. We met there, and then like we decided to be together, and I decided to move to New York with him, and it was in 2015. And when I moved, I had a choice either to kind of go back to my like initial professional, my education, which was like human resources, and I thought, okay, maybe I could just like kind of um, go down that route to develop my career in that field, or I can pursue my passion and something, a new interest and something that I would like to learn more about. And at that time, health coaching was very, very kind of like a big topic, and it was kind of like interesting. And I was listening a lot of podcasts and videos I was watching, and interested in like the whole idea of health coaching. And moving to the US, like I just noticed how many people needed help here, and I was curious about this whole thing, and I just like, okay, maybe this is what I should do, it's my calling. So I decided to become a health coach. I got certified, and since that moment, everything I did was all in health and wellness. um and interestingly enough, before I went back to school to pursue my master's in human nutrition, I worked for a medical writer who was trying to build his clinic, and I had to do some of my HR thing and just interviewing dietitians potentially for working in that clinic. And that was a very interesting moment for me because I had to interview a lot of dietitians. And that was in that moment, I was already thinking about going to school and realizing that my health coaching certification is not enough for me to do things that I would love to do to help people. And through the process of interviewing these dietitians, I started to notice that, oh my goodness, and of course, oh my gosh, everybody's different, right? But just the path that they had to go through to get there to become a dietitian, and how little they knew about actually prevention and health
Right?
was mind-boggling. I couldn't believe it. And also I was born in Russia, right? Like the way I was raised and the way prevention is present in every home, like it's just very, it's like eating, nutritious food, or like having ginger tea with lemon and honey if you're sick, like all these things, like you kind of grow up in this mentality that, you're kind of like trying to support your health. Um, and then talking to people who're supposed to know about health, dietitians, and like I talked to them and I realized like they were not taught of any of this. Like they don't know. Um, it's not the way they think about health, and it's like all kind of like within the frame of the hospital, and like just like the kind of the routine that they're supposed to follow. And and of course, since then I met and became friends with some dietitians, which are they're brilliant people and like brilliant practitioners who've done so much extracurricular to just develop their practices and the way they think about health and helping people. But I guess like my point was at that time I was like figuring out whether I should go down the route of becoming a dietitian or nutritionist. And at that time, I don't think becoming a nutritionist was so like popular and regulated and all these things, right? Dietitian is a very established profession and like well recognized and respected. But that experience of interviewing about like 20 dietitians really gave me an idea of the path that I was going to choose later. Because I just learned about how long it takes to become one, and basically you become one and you don't know anything about health, like it's hard to support and prevent diseases.
So I'll just want to pause you there for a moment and give some of our
Mhm.
listeners a little bit of insight, because I did go to school to be a dietitian. So I went through that dietetic, and I was the same as you, right? We had a garden, we pickled our food, like it was a piece. Yes, still a 90s kid, still putting chips on my sandwich kind of situation, but there's things that were ingrained. And then when you go in, dietitians are divided into 4 curriculums. Clinical is one of the 4. They have to do community outreach. They can run a kitchen, right? So they have to know all of the food safeties and that kind of stuff to run a hospital kitchen or a school kitchen or something along those lines. And then it's a community outreach clinical. And I think it's agriculture. I can be wrong. It's been many years since I followed their curriculum. But the point is that clinical care is 1/4 of the whole curriculum. And then when it is that clinical care, as you mentioned, it is very hospitalized, right? Is Jello for diverticulitis, right? Is ice cream for a sore throat. It's nothing that when you look as, growing up saying, "Oh, well, where's the tea? Where's the honey? Where's the food?" Right? I thought that's what we're after. I also found they were really good at teaching blanketed diets, right? Here's the DASH diet, here's this diet, here's the diabetes diet. But and we had 2 hours of medical nutrition therapy for 1 semester. So it actually if I felt like I left, and that's why I did not continue the extra 2 years to get my licensing as a RD, because I'm like, I'm more confused now than I was before I started this. So just to kind of give a little perception of just the education around and why registered dietitians might not have that same background in clinical or preventative care for anyone who doesn't know out there. Thanks, Yulia.
Yeah, I think it's really nice to have an insight. And I guess like I was just shocked because I come from a different culture, and like for me nutrition and health coaching, like I just saw it differently. I just didn't know what that profession implied. And also, as I said, I know brilliant dietitians who like go way beyond that training, right? As all of us, like in this profession, like if you go and become this person who is a nutritionist or like a dietitian, but like we talk about nutritionists and CNSs, it means like you're just really curious. You're always gonna learn. You will never know everything. Like you're just like open to this because of course, we can know everything. We're always learning, and we're learning through these cases, through our clients a lot, through conversations like this. It's just like um, there's never a point where you think you know everything. And I think this is why we're
It
here, like
is.
for better for worse, because we enjoy it. Sometimes it's frustrating when you try to apply something that worked for one client to another client and it just doesn't work, and you're just like, oh my gosh. But that's the beauty of it because like every person is different and unique. And I guess that's what I didn't feel when I was talking to those ladies when I was interviewing them. It was amazing because it helped me a lot. And I made my decision to go down the you know down the nutrition degree route. So, and then I picked that school because it was really like heavily rooted in biochemistry and physiology. It was so interesting. It was incredible. It took me like about 3 years and a half with like additional curricula that I had to do to get into this program. I made some like long life friendships, and it was mostly in person because then the pandemic hit, and I unfortunately we had to go fully
Hmm.
online. But it was like the final piece before we had to finish the school, which was great because most of my studying was done in person, which was amazing. It was like a program that was like on the weekends in person, so I could still work. And at the time, actually, I was working at the wellness place where we did we worked with just normal people, with athletes, like people who would come to us for detoxification, like sauna, flotation therapy, like for after like a traumatic brain injury, or just flotation therapy for anxiety, or just like to relax the muscles for different reasons. So many people, different kinds of people went through that wellness space where I was working at. It was so much also very exciting and interesting while I was at school to be exposed to this therapies and see how you can like optimize certain things, like you can help with detoxification, like how you can support people going through certain treatments when they come and they just like implement like, I don't know, flotation therapy or sauna on top of whatever they're doing as a part of their protocol with their doctor. Super interesting experience. And it was kind of like nice doing that, being able to do that while I was at school. And I was working with family and friends, of course, but other people who would like see me as a health coach mostly. I wasn't being able to give advice that I can give right now, but it was like constant kind of like constantly being exposed to working with clients in health and nutrition. And then I actually started working full time as a clinical nutritionist um, when we moved to the UK. It was like for about 3 years during pandemic. We moved in 2020, and yeah, I started working there. I joined a clinic that was run by very like one of those kind of people, like the first starters of the functional medicine pioneers. Yes, this guy was incredible. I was still in touch, of course, because I still do something for their company back in the UK. So he was running his own private clinic through, and I got exposed to his clients. And one of the actually cases that I'm going to talk about is my first case that I was like basically changed the way I think about women's health. It was
Cool.
like amazing to me. Um, and also, I was through his other line of work and his business, I was exposed to this training, like in functional blood chemistry interpretation. We did provide reports that were like accompanying a big panels, like blood chemistry panels, and we helped practitioners to interpret the results. Which again, like even though in my program we did touch on blood tests, but we're not that trained in that. Like it's always about functional testing, which I love, but since learning so much about interpretation and noticing the patterns in the blood, I think it's such an amazing tool, and it's also so available because a lot of it you can get through now with your doctor even, or other ways that you can pay with HSA FSA funds. So it's something that a lot of people can kind of understand why they would do it versus like you suggest some other metabolomics, and you have to explain to them that actually it's a legit thing. It can be a great tool, but things like that. So I got like really into blood testing because I learned the value of it once
Yeah.
you start understanding it. And I know like when we work together briefly, well, like we talked a lot about blood because it just
Yep.
gives you so much information. And if you have like a nice health history and you know how to read the symptoms, it's such a powerful combination, right? Of like the information you get from the clients.
Can
Yeah.
I pause us right there for a
Yes.
second on the
Yeah.
blood?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just want to pause us for a moment on the blood, because the blood could be read in very different lenses, and I don't think people understand that. So we have layers of interpreting blood work in general. So, like in traditional medicine, they're very, very wide ranges. And then when you come into functional medicine, we're going to look at more optimizing narrow ranges, right? A physician, traditional medicine, they're going to be looking at like the broad strokes. What's the outliers? And what does that mean as far as the diagnoses, right? How do we fix that with a pill? Maybe they'll say, hey, go lose some weight, right? That's usually how it is. In functional medicine, the goal is not to get to a diagnosis. And so we're going much narrow narrower in those limits. But then, because we're looking for patterns, okay, sure, we're not hypothyroidism right now, right? We don't want to diagnose that, but we have a pattern that is showing that we're on our way. So a doctor, probably a functional doctor, they can be like, well, we can still optimize that. We can still give a pill, depending on your functional doctor. But if you come into a CNS, they're going to be like, okay, where's your stress level at? Are you fasting in the morning? Do you sleep to rejuvenate this, right? Like, we can look at that. Nothing's out of range, nothing's red, right? When we're looking at that panel, but we can look at that and be like, okay, I know everything upstream that's going to make the thyroid put on their brakes. And I'm going to address all that first. And so when Yulia and I worked with each other, we also did way more labs than traditional medicine. Like, you're coming in, you're getting the gamut. We're checking the full cycles of everything so we can understand where in the cycle of your body there's an issue. The clients spend an hour with a physician, and then they get an hour with a CNS going over the same exact blood work. And I don't know about you, but people's clients, when they come, like, I just went over this blood work like yesterday with a physician. Like, why do we go over it? Like, we're going to look at this through a nutritional lens. And what is read through the nutrition is mind blowing. Majority I have found have never had their labs interpreted like that, have never had an understanding like that. And most of the time you look at it, there's nothing red, right? Everything looks perfect. Doctor says you're great, but they're like, I don't feel good. So we get to uncover what traditional medicine. But I really wanted to spend some moments on the blood work because absolutely it is the most accessible tool that we have. And we can read it differently. We can get so much information from it. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I love that you took the time to kind of like acknowledge that and also give your own perspective, because this is what I've noticed. And I also find it's kind of, people are more receptive to the information when it's based on the blood test, because like they realize the blood, I mean, it's something that's like kind of, everybody recognizes blood, like all the biomarkers that are there. There's nothing new and like completely unknown. It's just the way you interpret it, and it's just like the combination of the markers that are tested. They make a big difference, because this is when you actually can see the patterns, right? Because when you just like measure a couple of things and you start asking questions, but nothing else was measured, and you don't know where to go from there. But the bigger panels like we did when we were together, is, like that's
Yeah.
place, right? It was it was really good and very extensive. And it is interesting also, like what you mentioned about the ranges, right? Because and sometimes and it's up to us when I interpret, right? Because sometimes like I choose to not mention certain things. If I see that the imbalance is just slightly above or below optimal, or I'm like, you know what? There are bigger things that we have to address here. I'm not gonna overwhelm this person and telling them every single thing that's out of optimal range, right?
Yeah.
So we like, and that's why when this like experience and interpretation comes into place, who experiences this, who interprets, and how they interpret this for you makes a big difference. Because you can, yeah, you can upload it to ChatGPT or whatever. Like, you can just get all the like every biomarker will be interpreted like separately, but can you put it together? Can you identify what actually is important right now based on your symptoms, right? Like, because if something you will not, like cholesterol, you might not notice until you get a heart attack. But for the most part, there's a lot of things that you would notice that, okay, I see it in the blood. I can explain you why you feel this way. And then other things that we want to like put to the side, because as we know, as in CNSs, like we know that when we start addressing things that really need to be addressed, like specific nutrition insufficiencies, for example, I can see a lot of things, but when I see super low vitamin D, like unless this is addressed, nothing else will fall into places. But sometimes you address one thing and you just like, maybe by luck you address the right thing and things start falling into places. The body just kind of like returns to its, like it always tries to be in homeostasis, right? So we're just there to support. Like we're not gonna fix those things, but like support the healing. Um, and I
I
think,
think.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, it sounds like we both love blood work. And it is nice that you said like it is accessible. It truly is. And yeah, everybody has their own, you know, how much money they can spend on, but in general, it's very accessible to do once a year, a full blood panel. If you can go to somebody who can help you interpret, and create a plan for you to kind of support your body and health to like prevent things from getting into those red ranges, because that's what we do, right? We're not waiting
Yeah, we're not waiting.
until the marker crosses the line, and that's when your doctor will react. And that's what I sometimes explain to my clients. Well, yeah, they said, but the doctor said like it's not there yet. I'm like, well, why do I have to wait until you'll get like the medication for it or diagnosis? Why do you need to get there? Like the whole point is not to get there ever.
Yeah.
And that's why we can ignore it. It's not about being like crazy. It's about preventing those things from happening.
1,000%. 1,000%. Thank you for spending some time on this. And I'm going to just say one more thing because I see this in so many offices and so much frustration for new people getting into functional medicine. We're going to touch on that finance piece real quick. 'Cause as you mentioned, right? Like, depends on everyone's finances. Even though we're saying it's easily acceptable, this is what I see in practice. Sometimes your PCP will be able to add on certain markers and they're going to go over fine, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 5. If you walk in to a functional medicine office and they are taking your insurance and you are also paying cash, please be cautious because if they run a huge panel, like in many functional offices, out of the rip, there's no past history for anything to have to be read, you're going to get a bill. And that is where people get really mad because you're already paying cash for cash services, you're paying their insurance, and then the insurance is saying like, "I didn't want you to know all this stuff, so I'm not paying it." So a lot of the times you're better off finding someone who's cash pay, using a third party, has a relationship with a lab, and going and getting their panel filled. So if you're looking into this money as an issue, don't get caught up in that because you'll hate it.
Mhm.
I hate it for you.
Mhm.
So, when you're transitioning into functional medicine, if you want lab work done a lot more often, some of my clients, the blood is renewed every 120 days. So every 3 months, every 4 months, if we're doing medical nutrition therapy, right? Like we are doing something, I want to see labs move. I want to see if those supplements are working. I want to see if we got the right
Mhm.
cascade that we're pushing. I want to see it in 3 months. And yeah, your insurance is not going to cover that again in 3 months.
Mhm.
I just wanted to touch on that financial piece because that's a huge mind blow when we're coming from traditional functional medicine, even if it's just blood work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, financial piece is real, especially if you go to functional medicine clinic. I mean, just like the amount of money you pay up front, it's like not available to everyone, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but I found also that, and as you said, like if somebody's working with you and they're with you, they're in it for like a long run, kind of like
Hmm.
it's not a like a sprint, right? It's a marathon. Like you're observing this person getting better. You might order something small just to see that one marker move. It doesn't have to be like a big
Yep.
panel every single time, right?
Yep.
And also what I've noticed is that like some companies right now um offering like in the area of New York and New Jersey and also like nationwide, they offer these panels that actually if you try to put it yourself, it's going to be so much more expensive. They bringing the cost down big time.
Yep.
So I personally just like if I don't work with this client with it like in I'm not in a relationship with their doctor, I might just, offer them, you know what, just go get this panel. I'll help you interpret it. We'll go from there. And then you will always be able to download the raw data, present it to a doctor if you want to add, like, ask them to test this marker when you go for like your annual physical. So it's just like a baseline that, again, if it's financially possible for you to pay for it, it's so worth it.
I agree.
In my opinion, it gives you all the information because and then, yeah, it's like we can, I guess, talk about blood forever, but I usually have to do it now because there's so many examples where you're just like, oh, the TSH is normal, which the range is very large.
Very
And so many
large.
times I would see, even when we did the full blood panel, I would see normal TSH, all the normal hormones and antibodies through the roof. But who would test antibodies unless your TSH is off, right? Or
Right.
like you have very low T4 or like maybe a very high T4. Like nobody would do that. But it's something that like, yeah, there is this thing about over testing, but when it comes to blood, I think if you go and just do it, like do a good one, do a good panel that like just covers the body systems and you can see that you don't have to go back and it's just something else and something else because it was never full. Like the panel was never full. And so, yeah, that's just the last thing that we can touch on, I guess.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for going down that tangent with me. I think that
I love
was
that tangent.
that was great. Thank you. I loved that tangent too.
At least we enjoyed it. I don't know. Hopefully the listeners will get something out
I
of it.
hope so.
I hope so too. I think it's great. Yeah, so I guess it's like if we're still talking about me, so I'm
Yes,
still
please.
one of the instructors on the of the Academy of Board Chemistry, also Academy of Blood Chemistry. That's a blood interpretation course for health practitioners in the UK. It's in the UK, it's not in the US, but I enjoy that role very much, and I helped build this course with other brilliant practitioners who worked with, which is like one of my passions. Um, and so now here, besides seeing my clients one-on-one, I do provide supervision to for future CNSs who are preparing for the board certification, and they are sometimes fresh out of school or they had other careers, maybe in health, maybe not related to health, but like so many different people from different parts of life and careers, and I find it very fulfilling and very exciting. It's something that I really enjoy. Um, yeah, and I've been moved around a lot, and recently we like came back to Jersey. So I'm currently located in New Jersey, but I'm seeing my clients basically everywhere and internationally too. Um, but yeah, that's my I guess my story.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that and all of you. Do you have um any pearls, any words of wisdom, anything that you might want to say to future CNSs?
Um, well, I think I think it is important to find your community, like your people in this profession. And there might be doctors, there might be naturopathic doctors, might be dietitians who you click with, and of course your fellow CNSs, and just because it especially nowadays when we see a lot of people online, it can get very lonely and it can get very, very like you can get a lot in your head. And I think being a part of the community and being able to talk to your peers from time to time, ideally you want to do it in person, but if not, like maybe online or maybe through even conversations like we're having right now, I think it's very nice because it just gives you like reassurance that you're doing the right thing and you're here for the right reasons, and thank you didn't choose this profession like for by mistake, because sometimes it can get lonely and also sometimes it can get overwhelming. And I think actually it's a really good time to be a CNS because I've noticed a huge, and I'm sure you did too, like a huge progress that the American Nutrition Association did in the past years. Even since I became a CNS, there's been a huge shift in how we're perceived as professionals. Like we are included in every single drop down when you go like to register for like a course or conference or webinar. It was not the case before.
Was not.
So like it's just amazing that we're so recognized, and like licensing becomes better and better in different states. And I think it just means like just means that we are actually a real profession that is protected and recognized. And before anybody could call themselves a nutritionist, you can just do a course. And that's why people wouldn't maybe appreciate us or like appreciate a nutritionist or appreciate the value that we can give, because when we started working with people, they really quickly realize that they're so lucky to be working with us. But it was a little bit different before. It was a little bit hard to convince somebody that, oh, nutritionist, or you're just doing the smoothies, or like you just posting beautiful pictures on Instagram. It's funny. It's not funny, but like it was different, and now I feel like there is a real recognition. So I think that's why that's a good thing, and that's why if you are becoming a CNS, you have you are. It's a good time to be one,
I agree.
and of course, I think just the just being a part of the community, I think makes a big difference. And also, I don't know. I think it's the biggest challenge for CNSs and like for the ones that I work with and like for myself, but everybody has different circumstances. I moved around a lot and it presents its own with its own challenges. I think for us, unless you like are super into social media and are so good at it and you have like crazy following, the community that you build is going to be like a really important support because referrals are what basically move our practices. Um, and you know, building relationships with nutritionists, with doctors, with people in your community, I think it is very important because everything is done online right now. And when I talk to even like some of my, um, the people who I supervise, like we discuss, because again, everybody's different. And some people already doing a lot of things. We discuss that thing, that specific like piece of the puzzle of building a successful practice. And I think if you have the energy, like put it towards those like community events, go out there, talk to the people in your reach, like who can refer people to you, make relationships with them because it takes energy, it takes time. And for some people, it comes more naturally. Other people live in the same area for their whole life, they know everyone, which is amazing leverage that then. Um, but if not, then this is like, I think this is one of the paths that needs to be taken. And just like, you have to understand that it will be really hard for you to reach people just on social media if you don't have a huge following, because I think that's a people get like lost a little bit, like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Now I'm a CNS, I have all this knowledge. Like, where do I go besides like my family and friends, you know? Um,
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest struggle.
I love that you brought that up because I think there's a whole generational shift, right? And we're kind of losing that piece of it was only probably within the last 10 years that you could even really think about growing a practice online, right? Anything before that, you're hitting the ground, you're knocking on doors, you're going to the doctor's office, right? You're that sales rep person waiting on a Tuesday morning. So you can say, "Hi, I'm the CNS, and here's my pamphlet, and I'd love some referrals." And they're going to spend the 10 minutes, look at you, and say, "Well, maybe." And you have to show up again. Be like, "No, legitly, hi." And that's the thing. Um, I don't know if I'm just super lucky in Michigan, but functional forums, if you have not heard of them, known about them, look them up, but they are global. And one of my good friends, she's also a orthomolecular rep. She was also on our podcast here. She runs the functional forums here in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been so blessed to have that. We meet quarterly, all different types of functional practitioners. They come, we do roundtables, we do presentations, we do
Oh, that's
um,
amazing.
all these things that just bring us together as a community. How do we help each other in this functional medicine world? So there are groups also, or the functional forum is the one that I would say, like, get connected. Just agreeing
Mm-hmm.
with you, like, get that community based talk with people, and it, it makes it fun. It makes it nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think uh, actually, if it just makes it fun, it's already a huge, huge piece. Because again, when you are like sitting in front of the computer all day, every day, you might lose that fun eventually. But our work, it requires so much
Yeah.
mental focus and just so much energy. So like, if it's not, there's no fun piece. Like, you can't go out there and like talk discuss the cases with your peers and like just like kind of be in that environment where you just like maybe express your frustration, maybe ask for advice, it's like it gets a little bit it's harder and it gets a little bit lonely. And that's why it's amazing that you have that. It's really, really cool actually. I'm gonna check it
Check it
out.
out because it's global. It's global.
Hmm.
So you just got to find the person that hones it in for you. And from my understanding, um, orthomolecular, they make them host those functional forums, but they are
I
not part
see.
of ortho.
Oh,
So there is a
interesting.
differential. Functional forums is own totally different thing, but I know she's mandated to hold them through her ortho position. So I don't know
Interesting.
if it's that you gotta like look up your ortho rep, orthomolecular products.
I
Sorry,
have
I
one
keep saying
actually.
ortho.
Yeah,
Connect with
yeah.
them, connect with them and see what
Hmm.
they say. I don't know if it's like a Michigan thing and she just loves it. She's just great at it. I don't like I said, I feel really lucky, but poke at it.
That's really cool. That's a really cool advice. I'll definitely check them out. I've noticed that Vibrant America, like Vibrant Wellness, the test, they also created their own kind of conference, which of course they talk about their products, but they just bring in all these practitioners and amazing like kind of speakers who like give nice speeches. But then it's just like basically they allow people in functional medicine, like nutritionists, doctors, whatever, like just to kind of come and get together and just, talk to each other and hang out for 2 days, which I think is kind of cool. I do participate in Quicksilver Scientific dinners. They host them here in New York from time to time, and
Cool.
actually in Hoboken too. I always go because I always meet some interesting people. There are always different kinds of practitioners, and there's always a really interesting conversation, and just like this is how you feel like a part of the community when you are working online. So it's like, yeah, to your point, there's companies, and a lot of times it will be functional testing companies or supplement companies, but they create that um, community through those events, and I think I find them amazingly helpful. When I lived in Boulder for a year, Quicksilver Scientific office was my my second home. I would go to all their events.
Cool.
I felt so great, and I just found so many amazing practitioners there, and just to talk about things. And as you know, a lot of times what you hear during those events, like live, and the questions you can ask, it's not the same as you like go online and watch a webinar, because it's going to be not the same.
Not the
And
same.
that's why I think it's worth maybe spending extra money if you have to pay for the event. If it's just a small like 2-hour event or something, it's so worth it, because like and I think that's something that I highly recommend also, like new CNSs do. Just find in your area what's going on, like what's happening, what is the I don't know, who is organizing what, and like how can you connect to your peers. So that is definitely something I recommend.
A 1,000%. And, I think what we get overloaded with too is like the conferences, right?
Mhm.
Okay, now we have to fly to a different state and we have to pay for this hotel and we have to pay hundreds of dollars for this conference. And then it's overwhelming. You really don't even network that well when you get out of it. It's too much. You don't have to start there, especially for new
I
CNSs. Do
agree
not start
100%.
there. You saw me kind of looking to the side through my papers. I was seeing if I could find something, but it was a lab. I was living in New Jersey at the time. So this was probably about 6, 7 years ago. And I went to a full day conference, limes, mold, I think it was vibrant, limes, mold,
Mhm.
and something else. But literally, I was looking over here because I still have that folder. I still look at
Oh my
those
gosh, me too. I have
PowerPoints.
that too.
I have a
Yes.
whole stack over here of just like my past things from conferences, from things. I'm like, oh, I remember that. Whose doctor was that? What, like, and because once you know where to find the information, oh, it's a game changer. Like, I'll even be on with a client and be like, hold on, wait for it. Okay, it's not fully downloading, but I know where it is. And like, I'll go
Mhm.
through my stuff and I'll be like, okay, well, this might be like 6 years old. It might be a little outdated. Let me think clinically. Let me look it up. But they're worth it. Like, and they're not over in those 2 hours. Like, yes,
Mhm.
you leave, but the what you get, that conversation and, the take homes, worth it. It is so worth it. It's way more
Yeah.
than what you're gonna get in school.
It's amazing. I agree with you. It's just I still also have the folders. I also have like a presentations, but
Yeah.
and they just sometimes get overwhelmed. But I also will keep looking, because a lot of things that, yeah, there's some new stuff coming up, and like it's so fun. But for the most part, that clinical insight that you get from those people who are actually practicing, it's the most golden. It's just like, because it's and those
Mm.
things again you will only get when you go to the events like this.
Mhm.
Most likely you're not going to get it from school, or through this just webinars. And yeah, like the conferences here, they're very expensive,
It's
and I agree with you.
expensive.
Sometimes like I would go, and I went to most of them, and this year I decided, you know what, I can't spend this money anymore. I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to look something local, and thank goodness, especially like post pandemic, everything kind of things started returning in that way, that people get together and there's so much interest in them. That's why I think people started organizing more and more events, professional events locally. Um, because to your point, sometimes you go to these conferences and there are multiple talks scheduled at the same time, and you're running around like trying to get to that room, like, and listen for 15 minutes, and you're missing out on something else happening at the same time. it's just very overwhelming, but also it's fun. I think it has its place, and if you just want to like have the like just I don't know experience, like go to I don't know IFM conference or like integrative health symposium or like A4M does sometimes organize interesting things, not just for doctors. Like I did get my certification in fertility from a live event, and actually in Chicago, I went there. It was amazing 2 days. I loved it so much. Like just the organization of it and like people who I met, and just its ability to talk to people. But I was in a room with people who were like learning the same exact thing, like specific thing. It was very like very focused, which I liked a lot. And I think now I basically choose events that like have like kind of a focus in something one. And I think that's why you can kind of like learn and it's not parallel sessions happening, 10 sessions at the same time. It's just like you go and you can like relax. Okay, I'm here and I know that this is all what's happening right now. Um, but yeah, live events, it sounds like we both love them and we highly recommend them.
Highly
So
recommend them, especially for new CNSs, getting off the ground, few
yeah.
layers with that. Um, so I guess one more thing that just popped into my head before we go, how we kind of say, hey, we still refer back to them. Something that I find is like right once you start getting into and they're talking, we have a client that comes to our head, right? We're like, oh,
Mhm,
I had all these questions about this client, like, and we're eating it up for this client. And then as you go back for a different client, you get those aha moments like, "Oh, well, this is what this slide was saying." You didn't see it true for the last client, right? But now you're able to start collecting those dots going through that same format. And I just
mhm,
find that it's gold, right? You're not going to find that information on the internet. You're not going to just read how to clinically put it together in off PubMed.
mhm.
It's cool. All right.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool, 100%.
So Yulia,
But
oh yeah,
yeah,
take it. Bring
yeah.
it, bring it.
Just one thing we talked about all this like life, which is super super important. But also, like, if you are naturally good at social media, I don't think you should ignore it
Oh
because
no, get it.
it's
It's a
gosh, like
powerhouse.
yeah, and I think it can still, even though it's really hard to stand out. But people do look at your social media. People look
Yep.
at the website. It's like I think it's smart to have like a nice presence, even if you know for sure you're not going to be growing like crazy because you're not dedicated or you can't afford hiring somebody who'll do it for you. Just like having this page where people can scroll down like maybe like few times and have an idea of what you actually are about as a clinician and a little bit as a person because people connect with you as a person. People
Yep.
like you or they don't like you. It's
Yep.
usually that's how they choose, to be fair, because they
Yeah,
don't really know what you have to offer unless they start working with you. So I think invest in that, like come up with like a pleasant visuals that like you I guess like meet your aesthetics, but also like try to put your face out there to just present yourself on social media because people go and look, like they're going to check you out. And I think that's important. And it's not gonna and again, if it's not something that you're gonna be like super invested in, just having a presence and posting something from time to time will keep you going. And like if you tag somebody, they might look at your play like at your page, like maybe there is a product that you love and you tag them and then you get connected. You never know because the opportunities they still exist in social media. So I think you should never completely like say like, oh, I don't like it and that's why I'm not gonna do it. I think we have to do it. Nowadays we just have
agree.
to. It's like you have to be and choose one. If it's the only place you want to go to is Instagram and you hate everything else, that's fine. Just do that. Don't try to be everywhere all at once. But I think that's important too. It's like it's something that's just has
I
to be
agree.
there.
I agree. It's really important, but for future CNS, like just getting off the ground, yes, it's important, but like don't feel like if you're not getting traction on social media, like you can't build a practice. Just hit the ground,
Hmm.
get your boots on the ground, knock on doors, show your real face at the office, and your practice will move and your social presence will grow as you learn and grow.
Hmm.
So it'll all kind of keep going together.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
So you have brought us a case study today. I'm really excited, especially it's one that was a turning point for you too. Like those are my favorite.
Yeah.
They really are.
Got
You're like,
marked for life. Yes. Yeah. So the case study that I brought today, it's like it's one of those incredible. I think we'll have those clients that kind of change the way we think about things. And
Yeah.
then, of course, there are every person who I worked with and work with, like they're all unique and like so dear to my heart because we kind of become very close to these people, especially if we continue working with them.
Yeah.
But this case was very pivotal for me, like in terms of what, again, coming back to like CNSs and maybe advice, what you can give like to CNSs. I think everybody thinks differently about the niche, but this particular client helped me identify my niche within after I worked with her. Because in the end of the day, we all work on the gut, we all work on the lifestyle. It's like it's just, but I think niche helps you to stand out and helps you like develop your um like strengths as a clinician, because it's really hard to be really good at everything and every
Yeah.
condition and support people with multiple conditions, like because there's so much that goes into development of any imbalance and chronic condition. And I think if you picking the niche more or less, you can focus on that niche and you can get so good at it. It's just like you develop your expertise through that focus. And even though like on the background you're working maybe on the same things kind of,
Yep.
but like with a different, there's different lens you see how you approach all the same things like the gut and like balancing nutrients and things like that. So this was a case of infertility, and it's I will give you like an overview. So this lady, she came to us because I was working with that amazing nutritionist back in the UK. So she came to us and basically, like on the surface, she looked very like great. She had a perfect BMI. I mean, BMI, we know that that's is not something that should be a reliable marker for health, but BMI was great. She was working out 3 times a week, doing strength training. She was moving a lot. She wasn't happily married. She was not drinking any alcohol. She's so her lifestyle was kind of pretty great. And she came to us and she said, I'm 30, I'm 34. I'm going to turn 35 next year, and we just decided that we want to have children. And I went to the IVF clinic. They ran some tests on me, and then my husband and I, we decided that you know we should just try maybe to do it naturally first and give us a year before we go back to the clinic and do the IVF. So basically, this is how she talked about it, and we're like, okay. But what what I learned very quickly about her, that she had no period. She hasn't had a period a year and a half by the time she came to us. So it was interesting to me because like she came like to conceive naturally, and she wasn't complaining initially about anything else. And she went to the IVF, and I just like in my head, I'm like, why do you go to IVF clinic? You just try to do it, just try to do it, just try to have sex.
Yeah.
Um, so and then like through the health history and intake, we learned that she has an interesting health history because she told me that since she remembers herself, she wasn't having regular periods. She was diagnosed with PCOS when she was young, like around 20. I don't know what exactly went into that diagnosis, how they diagnosed her with PCOS, based on what, because there is a little bit of like a difference in how people get diagnosis. Maybe it
Hmm.
was just, ultrasound. I'm not sure. But then she was told that it kind of got resolved. So she said that now she doesn't have one. She also mentioned some history of women in her family who did have you know, some of them underwent full hysterectomy. There were like real issues with hormones, like sex hormones specifically. So like just it was interesting for me to kind of have in the back of my mind that there's something that runs in the family, that in the female part. But yeah, at that time when she came to us, she said that she doesn't have a PCOS, but she had it in the past. She also said that a, 2 years before coming to us, she went to a personal trainer and she decided to lose weight. She was quite overweight at that time for her height and, she had an extra weight. She knew that she had to do something about it. So she joined a meal plan that was proposed by her physical therapist. And she basically started eating very low carb, protein centric, and a very low fat diet. So within a year, she lost about 50 pounds. She kind of got to her like ideal weight, that she thinks about it that way. Um, so she was very happy about the place where she was at, like weight wise and the way she looked. But within that period, when she joined that weight loss program, she had one period and then it completely went away. So by the time she came to us, it was a year and a half without any period.
Just because I'm very, very curious, and I don't know if you're going to
Hmm.
circle back. I'm so sorry for interrupting, but
Yeah, no,
did
that's
the weight loss program was there like a GLP-1? Was it just calorie restriction? Was it just high energy? Like, I'm just trying to understand the
hmm
toxic load that was happening, or, the
right,
stress state that was happening for 50 pounds in a year, because that's
right.
that's weight loss.
That's a proper weight loss.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And that program was strictly caloric restriction based,
Okay.
like severe caloric restriction. And it was very like uh there's no diversity. There's like all the same proteins, all the same salad from the same
Gotcha.
restaurant where she goes before, like in the middle, like in the lunch, during the lunch break at work. Very minimal fats. Everything is low fat. You know, and also I've noticed that of course she had cravings because like it's really hard. She's a very disciplined person, and I had so much respect for her because like when she put something her mind into, she's very, very like disciplined. But it was interesting to me because when we started going through that program. Before that, she already cleared something was off. I didn't know her at that time, but she didn't have regular periods. And as we know, period is like a vital sign for health for women. So if a woman in your 30s does not have a period, something is off. Like definitely something is not working. And on top of that, she joined that program, right? So
Yeah.
it was very rough. Like I guess what was interesting to me at that time that nobody told her, and her personal trainer was a woman, and she never even like said that, oh, maybe it's not normal that your period has never came back. Like we've
Mhm.
been working out with you for so, and she's still with that trainer, right? And we did change a lot of things in the way she eats, obviously, but she still is still with that trainer. I'm like, well, this is a woman who works with a woman. And for her, it's not a red flag that she lost so much weight and her period never came back. So it was never even like discussed as not normal. And I guess because in her head, because she had irregular periods her whole life, to her, like
Sure.
just like paraphrase, like the just basically watch how she told about that.
Yeah.
Um, so for her, I guess like having no period was not like a red flag or anything. She was happy not having it and not like dealing with it. Um, and it's just like it's interesting because like it was never, I guess, maybe through observing her mom or maybe like her sister, maybe like other issues that women in her family had. Through hormonal imbalances, and maybe period was seen as a burden and as like a pain and stuff like that. So maybe having no period was just like, oh, like a relief, because
Gotcha.
she never saw it as like actually your femininity and the vital sign of your body function, that your body functions as it's supposed to. For her it was like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to deal with it. Um, so yeah, so there was no GLP-1, no nothing. It was just like purely caloric restriction and following the training program. So she would train every day. I think there was just one day she didn't train. And it was like those days she wouldn't see her PT. She would exercise at home on elliptical. And to be fair, I don't think that nowadays, like considering our sedentary jobs, and she has one, it's a bad idea to exercise every day. It just depends on how do you support your body? Like, what else is going on, right? Like, it's okay to go to the gym for an hour. I don't see it as a problem. And it's okay to do cardio, if you don't feel exhausted. It's just the point is paying attention to how you feel. So in my head, it wasn't like, oh, she's over exercising, even though we had to cut back on certain things with her, because it was clear from her blood work that we did that she needed like cut back on some exercises. But to me, number one thing was that why doesn't she have a period? Like just the first question, right? your body doesn't perceive safe to ovulate and to have children, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it means like that safety is broken in her body. So she's in this kind of like preservation and like fight or flight mode. Because I think it's a lot of women get like confused because they look at someone else who is exactly the same way they are now that she's so thin, right? She compares herself to, but this is normal. This woman is fine. Like, I'm fine. But we all have our natural, like, built in kind of like that we need to eat certain amounts. We need to have certain nutrients for us to function properly. And we all have that need that's unique to us. And our bodies are all different. And, for someone being super thin, it's just genetically, this is how they roll. This is their normal. And for someone else, losing extra 5 pounds can put them in that fight or flight state where everything shuts down and your body just doesn't prioritize procreation because it's not safe.
Yeah.
And this is, I guess, like was my main kind of goal to try to communicate to her and explain to her that it's not bad that you lost weight. Like, you're amazing. You're so dedicated, so like consistent with your practices. But just explain that, the fact that you don't have a period, it's not, we have to figure out what's that unsafety that, so that what is that stressor, the main stressor that's there that prevents you from doing so. Um,
So just to kind of break this down a little bit more, I
yes.
know if you've listened to me before, I talk about operating systems and I talk about cascades a lot. And when we're looking at, I do the same thing you just did, right? You look at it and say, what operating system are we in? Because once you understand the operating system, you understand what the body can accept and what it can't accept, and you know which pathway to go down. So when I say operating system, right, we have an intrinsic nervous system that breaks down to your sympathetic and your parasympathetic, and only one of those gets to rule the roost, right? Only one is going to be giving the signals to the body of what operating system, what state are we going to be working through right now? And if we are in a sympathetic, which is a fight or flight state, the body has a different cascade that is going to happen. Signals are going to be sent from the adrenals into your pituitary, and then your pituitary is going to send signals out to your thyroid and your gonads and your ovaries and say, hey, this is the level of stress we're in. And naturally, when we're in that fight or flight, it is not time for us to be going out and dancing and making babies, right? So, usually, the first thing we're going to see is that thyroid is slowing down, reverse T3 is coming up, the hormones are starting to go down because it's trying to put you on the couch, right? So, just to kind of give you a visualization for what you're saying of, hey, like, this is where we're at. The body is not safe, right? That fight or flight, the body is not safe, and this is how it reacts.
hmm I love it. I love it actually. I love this about your podcast that you like pause and just like give that like kind of like breakdown of what we're trying to say as as practitioners, like sharing our emotional journey with this client and this like amazing case study. No, this is really, really helpful. Um, yeah. So basically everything you said. So once we started going through the assessments, through the questionnaires, we realized, yes, she feels very cold. She feels that her extremities are always cold, and it's really hard for her to warm up. Thinking about thyroid, right? Thinking about
Mm.
iron. So then she would have like very she would be thirsty a lot, and she would have this frequent urination, which first thing you always think about sugar management, right? But like again, based on her labs and everything, there was not necessarily insulin resistance. The problem was probably her adrenals, because like this is what also starts breaking down when you in that fight or flight mode, and how of course thyroid and adrenals, they interconnected so deeply and
Mhm.
tightly. So, and then we would think about electrolyte imbalance and potentially adrenals need support, right? So just like those signs that popped up. So it was like, and then there was constipation piece, which again, um, dysbiosis, bloating, like the way she was eating was not feeding her microbiome, because she was like very, very rigid with the same exact salad, same exact like one vegetable, plus all these artificial sweeteners that are always a part of any like fat-free yogurt, right? Because otherwise you just won't be able to take it in your mouth. You need some sweeteners, even if they're not listed, and how they can be disruptive for the gut. microbiome. So basically all the signs: cold feet, cold hands, slow digestion, constipation, um, frequent urination, and absence of period. So like the first thing we did, of course, we did the blood test. We did a full blood panel on her to look at all the systems and to see what we should focus on first, even though maybe like subconsciously we would, not subconsciously, but like it was pretty clear where we should go first. It's always nutrition. It's always what we can adjust in your daily food intake, how we can adjust it and improve it. And also, how can we support digestion? Because clearly, if there's a lot of bloating, it will be really hard for the person to accept to eat more of something, right? So that was like our third process. Okay, how do we support digestion and just replete the nutrients that uh, which we uncovered through the blood tests? We saw that there was a need for zinc, there was a need for vitamin D. Um, your Interestingly enough, your thyroid panel, the way it looked like suboptimal-ish because your TSH was still in the range. Your T4, total T4 was suboptimal. It was not very low, but your T3 free in total in red range. It means like anybody would notice it, but it was never tested. And IVF clinic will never test it for you, you know? And imagine going someone through IVF through it's a very harsh on woman's body, being so depleted and being so like operating in that like fight or flight mode where your thyroid hormones are on the floor. Um, so that was like very interesting to see and also reassuring to explain to the person like, okay, this is why you feel this way. This is why this. I think this is very helpful for people to understand that, you know, like it's not that I'm completely broken, something's so wrong with me. No, I just need these nutrients to be repleted. I just need to change some things, and then things will start coming together. So those were very important findings for us. She had elevated cortisol in the morning, which again, it's just like a snapshot in time, right? Like it's not necessarily representing like the whole curve, but increased cortisol in the morning, suboptimal DHEA, increased glucose, the signs of like suboptimal kidney function. Your EGFR was very low, it persistently low. And it's funny because I'm jumping now to like forward, but she got her kidneys checked, and I really wanted that to happen, and nothing was abnormal. And in my head, of course, you know, we did this pregnancy too, just like to kind of like make sure there's nothing bad. But like for me, also when you think about the kidneys, think about adrenals that sit on the kidneys, right? Like it's just like it's still like things are all working together. It's never just one thing, right? And
Yeah.
just in my head, I was like, "Oh, okay, so whatever. She's perfect and kidneys are great. Like new fires on the floor, but who cares? Let's focus on other things that we can control and can support, which adrenals and thyroid." So, um, also, what was interesting from her sex hormone perspective, of course, she didn't have a period, so we didn't test on a specific day of the cycle. Even though I have to notice, unless you have a variant failure, which she didn't, your ovary is still cycling, so she's still making hormones, and there might be some like ups and downs. Wherever we caught her both progesterone and estrogen were very low in menopausal range, basically. And for me, it was very important to see LH and FSH and specifically the ratio and understand if it's actually hypothalamic amenorrhea. It means like your hypothalamus kind of like shuts down those signals to your ovaries and the LH signaling is not happening to induce ovulation. So basically, in her case, her LH to FSH ratio was below 1. Like, you know, it's one of those things we look at when we try to figure out if it's hypothalamic amenorrhea. But typically, if there's no PCOS, if there's no thyroid disease and other um, diagnosis, a woman who doesn't have a period for over 6 months typically is you can tell it's a hypothalamic amenorrhea most likely. And so from there, I guess we just needed to understand where to go next and how to support her and how to bring that period back and how to create that safety that would allow her to actually start ovulating. So we put together a protocol. We of course focused on nutrition and like variety of vegetables. And the good news is that she and her husband, they're very committed and they also cooked on the weekends and her husband likes to cook. So they were like committed to creating that like environment that would allow her to for more diversity in terms of food. And we went slowly because it's a little bit sometimes like we notice, you can sense when people are very, very scared of food, and you don't want to like tell them anything that can like create even more scarcity and fear, or we don't want to like push them too far so they just completely like shut down, right? So we just like
Mhm.
try to say, okay, so try to diversify, maybe like extra new vegetable, maybe like 2 times a week, add a little bit of olive oil in your salads, like it's
Yeah.
okay. Let's try to have a dark chocolate versus this weirdly flavored cracker with like some artificial sweeteners and like minor things, right? And we had to shift your schedule of exercise a little bit. And the second phase was supposed to be like after repleting her nutrient insufficiencies, we wanted to start the focusing more on the gut because we did a Genova test, we did a stool test with her, and her protein breakdown markers and fat. So basically, we identified that she was like poorly absorbing nutrients from her fat and from her protein. She had very high short chain fatty acids. It's like a lot of dysbiosis, a lot of depletion, and also there was some parasitic infection present. So we decided we just need to address that as a second phase because we need first to prepare her body to be able to take, the protocol that will be addressing infections and parasites. And that was like set in 2 stages. And she started following the protocol, and then she disappeared, and then she reappeared, and we saw her in June 2020. Yeah, it was like June, and we started working like the protocol maybe started taking place in around like August. So then she disappeared. She went on vacations and stuff like that, and then she reappeared the next year in the beginning of next year, and it was February, and she came to us with like some random blood work that she did somewhere else. And she said that she just had her first bleed for 4 days. And she's like, well, it's funny. I mean, did I have a period? I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a period. So, and we said, like, y- you probably should just start trying, just get in the mode of it because it's also very important.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we did run another blood work and did another blood test. And sorry, not blood test, but stool test. And that stool test showed so many more improvements in terms of like diversity, digestion, infections. Like, everything was better. So basically, nothing was like super perfect, but like it was so much better than the first picture we saw. And in blood work also showed like improvement in thyroid levels, in nutrients. But the funny thing is, when we did the blood work, it was maybe a month after she came to see us. Um, we noticed patterns of like someone who could potentially be pregnant. So basically, she got pregnant from I don't know second or third try when she just started trying after she got her period back. And when that happened, it was just like amazing. It was amazing because
Yeah.
like the sheep and everybody's different, but for her in particular, she just needed to get that restart, like to get that ovulation going, and she was able to just conceive. And that's something that you can never um, promise anybody that it's going to happen right away, but it happened for her. And thinking back, I was also looking at the protocol that we put together, and I was looking at something that I really wanted her to take, which was phosphatidylserine, and I wanted to balance out your cortisol. And as I said, we didn't do Dutch tests. We didn't do the cortisol awakening response through saliva. We didn't actually do. We did it later, actually, yeah. But at that time, we didn't see the whole pattern. But I knew that how important T3 is for metabolism of cortisol. And even if she didn't have crazy high levels of cortisol in her blood, most likely she was not able to metabolize it properly. And most likely she was having that fight or flight state that she was living in, also due to the fact that she was having really hard time metabolizing it. So I thought, it's not going to hurt. Let's add phosphatidylserine and see how she feels in it. And I'm certain that that also played a role because taking that maybe helped her to kind of downregulate that cortisol and allow for better LH signaling and allow for ovulation. Um, and it's hard for me to like say that this is exactly why, but I'm pretty certain that that played a big role because we didn't introduce any hormones. We didn't, give you like thyroid medication, which could be also part of protocol like that. But we just went slowly because we didn't want to rush. We wanted to just allow your body just naturally just feel better, just resolve constipation, all the things. Um, and amazingly, she had a very healthy pregnancy. She had
Yay.
no complications. And it was so cool to me to observe, like, I feel thyroid went online, she's like, because when you're pregnant, it's tricky, right? The blood test doesn't look exactly the same. And she would share with me what was tested by her GP, like in different stages of your pregnancy. And also through that, I learned how the body changes, how the markers change, and what is not normal usually, like, would be absolutely normal in pregnancy. And I was observing her thyroid hormones that were tested, and I was like, wow, she has a good level. Like, she can actually do it. She can grow a baby. Like, your iron was good. So basically, it was just like and of course, a case like this, like, just can't not impact you, because if you see, oh my goodness, this woman could just have gone to IVF, go through IVF, probably it wouldn't happen for her right away. Probably she would have to go through multiple rounds, which happens a lot. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I just keep thinking, I guess when we talk about the myths to bust, like, if you can get pregnant during like a certain amount of time, it doesn't mean that the next stop is IVF clinic. It just means that let's look at what actually is going on underneath. Like, what are the imbalances? Do you even know when you ovulate? Do you know your window? Like, have you ever measured have you ever done the blood work, like proper assessment of everything? What is preventing you from getting pregnant? It's not like you're broken, you need IVF. And I also seen a lot of women go into IVF and so many rounds, and how hard it is for women. And it's just like, sometimes we talk about it, it's like, oh, IVF, great. Of course it's great that it exists, but like, it's so difficult. It's so hard on a woman's body, mentally, physically. It's just so much pressure. And if someone like this client of mine would go through IVF, I doubt she would be able to go through it, like, and get pregnant from the
And to
first
carry
try.
it.
And curious,
Yeah.
exactly. So just imagine the trauma that women experience if they just go straight there. Nobody's going to assess their health. It's not their job. Their job is for you, is to make you pregnant, and they will do their job. And if it takes 10 rounds, it will take 10 rounds. Eventually, it will probably happen. But I guess my point is, like, allow your body to just, like, give your body everything it needs based on a proper assessment. And maybe you need somebody who can guide you through the process. And even if it doesn't happen initially for you within a year, you still go to that clinic. You will be so much better off, because your
Yeah.
terrain will be prepared for pregnancy. And for whatever reason, you were unable to get pregnant. And then most likely that treatment will settle in much faster, and you'll be so much healthier through pregnancy and postpartum, versus not preparing for it at all and just go there and thinking that they're going to take care of you. No, nobody's taking care of your body and your health. Like, nobody
Nope.
there is taking care of
Nope.
that.
And I would say that would probably be safe to say that is where traditional medicine leaves off, right? It's okay, I see you have a family history. So instead of taking that as a clue, it's taking it as genetics or a predisposition and saying, you probably can't anyway, shoo under the rug. And then here's some hormones, right? IVF is your next step. So traditional medicine definitely dropping the ball on that part. And it looks like when you were uncovering what traditional medicine left off, you uncovered where her hormones were, where her thyroid was. But the biggest one that stood out to me is nutrient deficiencies, especially after the year of losing 50 pounds from calorie restriction. The number one thing CNSs are taught in school is number one, you fill in nutritional gaps. I think we all practice, but I'll speak for myself at innate clinical nutrition, right? The body has its own innate wisdom that we don't even have a clue on, right? It is so smart. It is so well designed. And literally all you have to do is give it what it needs and it will find homeostasis. It will correct itself. But if the baseline of nutrition is not there, if nutrients are not there, you don't have the catalyst, right? You don't have the enzymes. You don't have the parts to make the car. And if you have the parts to make what looks like a car, it's probably not going to be safe once you put it on the road, and the body's not going to allow it. And so that nutritional deficiency piece, I think, is way overlooked, even by some RDs or nutritionists, to be honest,
Hmm.
on some of that. That part definitely comes first. And I do think that's why a lot of us start with gut health, right? We talk a lot about gut because if there's a hiccup and we're not digesting or absorbing, then the body is not getting the nutrients, right? The gut's either going to fuel nutrients that the body can balance off of, or it's going to throw toxins into the body. One of the two. And if we're throwing toxins from all these byproducts from our body not being able to process, or these bacteria eating our food and giving us LPSs and endotoxins and all these other markers or um, particles that are toxic to the body, then it's going to continue to build that toxic load and solidify that fight or flight operating system. And so all of them kind of work together. The gaps, getting the body on board with you, right? Like you can't do the work as a CNS, right? You really can't do the work. It's the body has to do the work.
Mhm.
And you got to kind of figure out where in these cycles do I get to throw the wrench? And then once I throw the wrench, did I make sure that this machine is oiled enough that we're not going to break anything when we start switching gears? Because it's hard to switch gears. It's hard to stop a machine and to make it go a different direction. And that's exactly like what we're trying to do. So that's time, right? That's
Mhm.
finesse. That's understanding what gear to push, which one to leave alone, and how to prep that system. I just wanted to kind of bring all that together. And it sounds like the biggest, or what would you say what's the biggest turning point for your client?
Well, as you said, the body is so smart, and it's like it has its internal wisdom, and sometimes I sometimes I don't know exactly what works. I mean,
Yep.
I don't know because like I can't just simply because I have a history with this client. I do believe that besides doing the groundwork of repleting nutrients deficiencies, kind of helping the gut to start working, relieving constipation because you don't recycle all these toxins and hormones and everything, right? Um, Besides that, I do think that the addition of CS, like phosphatidylserine, played a big role. I personally do um, because because we're talking about this case specifically, but we
Yep.
worked together in postpartum and everything, and we did some other testing. And it's exactly what I was thinking at that time, which was not tested, is that her baseline cortisol was not high. She was like, it was suppressed, the, but her recycled cortisol, she wasn't able to remove it. So I think we know how important cortisol is for ovulation. If it stays high, it will prevent ovulation from happening if everything else is already like kind of suppressed. So I find that that little cherry on top was also very important for her to restart that ovulation. In like meanwhile, she was giving all the support for her body systems, improving digestion, all of it. So and again, that's why like, I don't know. Like I can't tell exactly what worked. Also worked on her gut. We gave her like really nice antiparasitic herbs, which is super important, right? Because if this parasites sit there and eat your nutrients and your iron, it's like, okay, well, whatever. Like it's really hard to support thyroid health, and like
Yeah.
energy and all the things. So I think all of it together, but I do think that that piece was very important in the
Would you mind for all the practitioners listening, if they are not familiar with all our phospho groups and our, phosphatidylserine that's the one you were talking about, right?
yes, that's what I
Yeah.
was hearing. Yeah, yeah.
Um, can you kind of just give an overview of why, like how that works, why you picked that particular one for cortisol? Because right now high cortisol is all over the internet. Doctors are trying to get onto that. And I don't think people understand what this phosphonutrients in general
Hmm.
actually do. If you wanted to kind of break that down for the audience, that'd be great.
Yeah. So yeah, there are different phospholipids and the phosphonutrients. I picked phosphatidylserine because of its role that it plays in helping metabolize cortisol. And I picked it specifically for her because it just like because of those two clues that I saw her high cortisol in the blood. And when she came back to us, actually, it was present. So in my head, I was wondering whether she was actually properly metabolizing it because I knew her levels of T3 hormones were like very, very low, and T3 helps metabolize cortisol. So that was my thinking, and I wanted to kind of support metabolism of cortisol. And I knew that if I give her a certain dose, like for example, phosphatidylserine at 150, I give her in the morning and at night for better sleep. Again, it was intuitive. It was not
Yeah.
right, and I could have been wrong, but like we just decided to try, and that dose was not a high dose. It was like a not good dose that people use, like practitioners use. It's just like I learned it from someone else, like talking to someone, and I just like let's give it a try. So that particular nutrient work on cortisol. It has other benefits, but for me, picking that was specifically for that. Um, for example, I love phosphatidylcholine, which is another phospholipid, which is so good for, in general, integrity of the um, cellular integrity for the cells function. Phosphatidylcholine is really beneficial for cholesterol as well, for like supporting good cholesterol, HDL. For fluidity of the cell membranes, it's very important. So, like, I like for women actually phosphatidylcholine, and actually, going through perimenopause, going to menopause, we're losing acetylcholine, like another very, very important nutrient. So phosphatidylcholine can actually feed into that making of acetylcholine, which is which is very important for the brain function, for many things. So my favorite ones are phosphatidylcholine and phosphatidylserine, but they have different properties to them, and they can be used separately, or phosphatidylserine is not something I will give anybody just, oh, I think you have high cortisol. Because
Right.
actually, if somebody has low cortisol in the morning, you give them phosphatidylserine, you're gonna just completely, you're gonna find them on the floor
Yep.
because
They're going to crash.
they will crash. So that's why I picked it very like specifically for this client, because I have intuitively suspected that she might have that higher cortisol levels in general, even though on surface she might not look like one, because of the inability to metabolize it because of her low T3. Um, but actually, a lot of women have low cortisol in the morning,
Yeah.
and they need actually something to boost it, not to suppress it. So,
Thank you for sharing that. Like, I love the phospho groups. And so they are extremely powerful, but just in the essence of what they are, it's a fat, it's a lipid. And so if we think about, and obviously it's a good lipid, right? So it's I won't go down the good bad lipid. I'll stop my brain there. But this could be a very powerful lipid. And so you think of what is controlled by good lipids, the brain, antioxidant stress, feeding the body with vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamins A, D, E, and K. There we go. Vitamin A, D, E, and K. And these are required for the functioning of our systems, right? Our immune system, our thyroid, our hormones. And so when you have a client coming from a year of no fats, whoo, oh, and you see all those systems coming in, like these are going to be the most powerful fats you can put in. But as you're saying, you use those with caution, right? You start with your omega 3, start with your good fats, start with your fat soluble vitamins, but then you can pull out some of these stronger nutrient supplements to really pinpoint and push cascades in the system.
hmm yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's right. That's those things like you have to, especially when it comes to, I think phosphatidylcholine, honestly, I think it's beneficial pretty much to anyone, especially after a certain age. But serine, you have to be cautious about. It's like it's powerful. It truly is. And it needs to be, you have to understand when to use it and when not to use it. But yeah, fat soluble nutrients, it's incredible to see a woman on low fat diet. It's just so heartbreaking because of like what you just said, how important lipids are and how much we rely on them. And just yeah, it's like, of course, first thing we absolutely needed to replete vitamin D. We gave her a really nice complex with all the antioxidants, right? Because sometimes I think sometimes people think, oh, I just like all the supplements, and but like to the point that you made earlier, you need to replete those systems. You need to replete the insufficiencies first, just to give your body like this like head start, and then you can work on other things. Because hopefully you won't need all this later on, because you'll be absorbing and you'll
Yep.
be eating all the foods that will give you that. And sometimes you might need to like get something externally here and there, but the initial supplementation, I think it's paramount. I don't think we can resolve everything with someone like this through food right away. Because like
Nope.
if somebody is not digesting properly, like you can't expect that they're going to be digesting fats if they're not. But clearly, based on the stool test, or just if they give you the just using the Bristol chart and see like what's going on, and somebody's constipated, So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's very important to repeat nutritional, like fill in the gaps, especially if you do the testing and you see clear need and how important those nutrients are for function of the brain, hormones, enzymatic reactions. So like, yeah, it's something that I always do, and I always tell clients, you won't need all this forever. Trust me. It's just like we have to do it now, and we have to do it because we need to kind of kickstart it. Always like we have to support the body systems. Otherwise it will take much longer and will be more painful.
And I wanna bring this full circle too. Like when you go to a functional medicine doctor, they do not know how to do all of the underlying care, right? And I did a post on this. If your functional medicine doctor does not have a CNS on staff, do not go. It's not worth it. Do not pay for them because they are not practicing functional medicine if they do not have a nutritional foundation. It just
I
is what
love
it is.
this.
And
It-
so when you see a physician and they're giving you 20,000 supplements, like, yeah, you're never going to get off of those. And after a year, you're going to be supplemented out, right? Because I think people that come to see us a lot, sometimes, people that come to see me too, like they're even done with functional medicine, right? The functional
Mhm.
doctors, they have raped them clean of money with no solution still. And that sucks. And
That's
that
really sad.
really turns away, people from getting actual help. But where we get to shine as CNSs, right? Like, we get to know it all. We get to know the diagnoses, right, that the doctors want, that pathology. We get to know the food part. We get to know the supplement herbal part. We get to know the person, the client, their stressors, their journey, their story, and all of that counts. So I cringe when someone comes in and like, "Oh, yeah, I've been taking this for 7 years." I'm like, "Wait,
Mm,
wait, 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 that's not how supplements work." Shouldn't be how supplements work, right? Exactly as you were saying, like, we might have to be very supplement heavy in the beginning because your body literally cannot do the work to do it. But
mhm,
we on the back end are gonna be working on all of these other things because in 2 to 3 months, right, that job is gonna be over and we got a different job to do. And
mhm.
so the supplement amounts are gonna change and how we're managing the supplements are gonna change, but I work the same way you do. Eventually, there should be no supplements, right?
Mhm.
Eventually, food takes over, the sun takes over, happiness takes over, sleep takes over, and now we're in a maintenance of life, not digging us out of deficiency with supplements.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for letting me insert that.
Yeah.
Yulia, this has been absolutely amazing. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I
Oh.
appreciate you joining so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I enjoyed it so much. I'm like, why are we not like in the same city? Can we just have a coffee and discuss all this stuff? No, it's just like it's so fun. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And it's just like it's so cool to discuss, and so because through discussions we can also understand better even like the cases, and like you can say something that like, oh wow, I didn't think about it, or this is, or kind of get some, I don't know, like reassurance, and just like, oh yeah, no, that's exactly it. She's also doing the same thing. Like it makes sense. It's so great. So I'm so glad you're doing this podcast. Hopefully you continue. I know the first year is the hardest.
Thank you. Thank you. For anyone listening right now and they're like, you know what? I'm having fertility issues and don't want to do IVF, or I want to get off my contraceptive and I'm terrified, right? Like I hear that's a pain. Maybe we do another podcast on that one because that's huge.
Huge.
Or someone over 35 being like, uh-oh, I don't know if these are my hormones. Am I feeling crazy because my hormones? Is this or what is it? How would they find you? They say, I want to work with Yulia. Where they go?
Oh, please find me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram as Yulia Glotzer, or Vibrant People Nutrition. It's a long word in one word. Vibrant People Nutrition is my handle. And then you can I also have a website where you can go. It's Vibrant People Nutrition, my name. And there you can read a little bit more about me, and you can reach out through the form there, or just you can also book a call with me through Instagram, because there's a Calendly link to Discovery call. You can email me, you can fill out the form through my website. I also started taking insurance through this
Woohoo!
platform, and currently I'm taking Aetna. And I'm available in many, many states through Aetna. So if someone has Aetna, because if you do have a good coverage, it can be really cool if you can use that, and have someone to work with through insurance. So I'm doing this as well. So please
Beautiful.
find me if you need help. I love my profession. I think all of us were just passionate about what we do. So it would be great to meet. And yeah, I would love to do whatever I can to help and support you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yulia, for doing such an incredible, life-changing, and necessary work for women who need someone in their corner. Your clients are so lucky to have you to lean on for support. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in today for this episode of CNS Unfiltered. If you are thinking about getting pregnant or struggling with fertility, don't ignore your nutritional needs. Examining what deficiencies you might have could be the missing piece. But if nothing else, strengthening your body will only make the process of pregnancy smoother for you. If you're interested in working with Yulia, go to vibrantpeoplenutrition.com for more information. Give her a follow on Instagram at vibrantpeoplenutrition. If you're interested in working with me, check out innateclinicalnutrition.com to schedule a free phone call. If you're a future or current CNS or functional medicine practitioner, medical professional, or functional medicine patient, we want to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, or success stories, send us an email at cnsunfiltered@gmail.com for a chance to be featured on a future episode. If you're a clinical nutritionist or other functional medicine practitioner and you're interested in being interviewed, click the link in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. Follow at Innate Clinical Nutrition so you don't miss a new episode, and share this with a client or classmate who might need to hear it. Once again, I'm Jena Salisbury, and remember to listen to your gut.